Warning: the following video contains massive spoilers for the entire Metal Gear franchise, mainly the Phantom Pain. If you have not played them or you wish to experience the story yourself, do not watch this video. You have been warned.
This is gonna be posted on the gaming channel and the main Parking Avengers channel. So if you're watching it on Parking Avengers, check out what is now being called Dusty Plays Games. And if you're watching this on Dusty Plays Games, check out Parking Avenger Productions for wonderful stuff. Either way, hey, it's Dusty.
And it's Daniel.
And we're going to talk about Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain.
Yeah, this is going to be a full spoiler. So if you've not played the game, if you don't want to get spoiled, if you haven't played any games in this series, I implore you, stop, turn back now, and play the games.
Yes, this is it's I guess it's a full series spoiler cast, so to say, but the main focus is going to be Phantom Pain since we have both recently completed it. However, we have not done Mission 45 yet for very obvious reasons, so that's probably not going to come up at all. But, yeah.
And it's not really necessarily material to the greater auspices of the Metal Gear franchise story.
Yeah. So, first things first, we did before the game came out, we did
a prediction challenge.
Yes. We came up with our own theories on what would happen in the game, and wanted to see who would be right with more theories, like a point system or whatever.
This is, I guess, the reason we're sharing this with you is to kind of give like a before and after, like what people thought about the game before it came out versus how people, how it actually turned out.
Which has been less than positive, it seems.
It's been decidedly mixed, but I think on the whole, people really love the game still.
They love the gameplay. It's not quite like Destiny, but similar to where people are like, the gameplay's great, but the story... Anyway. Granted, Destiny was trash, but that's neither here nor there.
Without further ado, here's the first prediction. We were wondering whether Skullface would be a new character or not. Whereas I said that he would be a new character. Dusty felt that he was going to be a rehash of an older character.
No, not a rehash. A rehash, more so an old character being brought back in some way.
Being burnt beyond all recognition.
Yeah, so...
But anyway, regardless...
I think you will get the point for that, though through the story, he is not a new character per se. He's new to us, but not new to the story, because he was the cleanup crew.
And we can talk about that at some
point.
One of my frustrations with...
We'll get more into that later, so I think you'll get the point because he is a new character.
Oh, he's absolutely new.
So, yeah, I think that's you. Alright, next theory.
The next theory was that at some point we would pilot a Metal Gear like Metal Gear Solid 4. Oh my gosh, love that moment. Dusty was taking the affirmative on that one, saying that we would, and I didn't think we were going to. And as you know, we ended up not. Despite the fact that they really hyped up that Battle Gear.
Yeah, I don't... What does the Battle Gear do?
You deploy it on missions. It's like Rex, but worse in every way.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, that's Daniel. Point for Daniel. It's not a good start for me.
This next one, though, I thought that Zero, we'd meet him in person. And, we didn't. We saw him, we heard him, rather, on the cassette tapes. So that is a point for Dusty.
Okay, yeah, let me clarify a little bit. Daniel thought that we would see Zero in person. I thought we would only hear his voice.
I thought I just said that.
Sorry, I wasn't sure exactly. I was typing this, so I didn't hear exactly what you said, so I probably missed where you said that. So yeah, there's only cassette tapes with Zero in them, so that's a point for me.
The next theory was that Quiet was going to be a victim of some sort of experiment, similar to like the skulls.
I remember you saying that you thought that Quiet was a skull.
Yeah.
I don't know how you typed that on there, but the way that you're saying that feels like you could kind of mix that around. Like,
I would still give it to me because
I'm still gonna give you the point. I'm just saying. Don't make it seem different than what it was.
I don't. Here, what I wrote was Quiet is an experiment victim. That's literally the only thing I wrote.
Well, fine. You're getting the point regardless. But when we were speaking, it was Daniel thought that she was a skull, and I was like, okay, well, I didn't have a counter theory to that. That was just a theory that you had. That was.
Well, I mean, she had like that face thing. And,
Yeah,
like, the other
she
skulls.
had the shitter. The I tried to say shutters, and I think I went from like
You became profane.
whatever. She had the shutters. Actually, no, never. I think it was just her jumping.
Yeah, there was just jumps.
Yeah, doesn't matter. You got a point. It's not looking good for me.
Okay. The next would be that there was a major attack on Mother Base. This one is interesting. Like, how would you count like the mosquito incident?
Oh, you're talking about the guy that?
Yeah.
That was an attack on Mother Base. Yeah.
So
That was a very clear attack on Mother Base. He took control, took hostages, and you had to sneak through your own Mother Base and take him out.
that was an awesome mission.
That was a great mission. That is very clearly an attack on Mother Base. Is that a point for you or a point for me?
I was the one that theorized that.
Okay, so that's a point for Daniel. I think the problem, let me just go ahead and say this, is not every single theory was you think this, I think this. It was some that were like that where they conflicted, where it was like one of us is going to get a point one way or another. And then some of them were just like, this is what I think. And then like you were like, well, I don't have a counter to that, or vice versa. So free points, basically, if you happen to be right. Though I guess that's kind of a high risk, high reward situation. Anyways, next theory.
The next theory was that Snake and Kaz were going to get into a power struggle.
Snake versus Kaz. I don't think that was true.
Yeah, I don't.
There was Kaz and Ocelot having their little scuffles, and even
which
then
is our next theory. Kaz and Ocelot do not get along. I guess I should go back. Hold on, and say that Dusty, you were the one that theorized that Snake and Kaz were going to.
And you thought Ocelot and Kaz?
Yeah.
Dang, that was stupid of me not to say Ocelot and Kaz. That's a point for you on that.
Because, as we all know, at the end of the game,
I have one point right now.
I'm going to kill you in 21 years. I'm Ocelot.
Yeah, they did.
Oh yeah, well, bring it on. I'm Kazooie.
Fine by me. Okay, hang on. Let's think about this Snake versus Kaz thing. So, let's break into some huge spoilers right now.
Well, we've already done. Go ahead.
And get some technicality.
Open the can.
When I said Snake, I meant Naked Snake, Big Boss. Because we still assumed that Venom Snake was Naked Snake. However, Venom Snake is not Naked Snake. That's a huge spoiler. You are not playing as the big boss that you've come to know through Snake Eater if you played Portable Ops, and Peace Walker. You're playing as the medic and Ground Zeroes. You're playing as the medic that also was voiced by Kiefer Sutherland with that was pitch shifted down, I think, like 2 tones, who removed the bomb from pause in the Ground Zeroes mission. Which, if you played the game, then you already know this. If not, we warned you. This is your fault.
But you're wrong.
In that aspect, there is kind of a struggle in the sense that Kaz gets incredibly angry about Big Boss deserting him like that to do his own thing and leaving him with Venom, and him being like, Big Boss betrayed me. We are not friends. So
see, but you're wrong. He worked with Big Boss again later as the training guy for Foxhound, because Big Boss went on later to found Foxhound, and so he then he worked under him.
Yeah, but Kaz went back to Cypher.
Yeah, but he was working with
Okay, so yeah, Big Boss commanded Foxhound in the 90s.
Here, let's move on and finish this up.
Let's just no point.
So the next theory.
Yes, let's just cut to the next theory.
Was
we'll get more onto the Kaz and Cypher thing later.
This is a big moment for you. The real Paz is dead.
Did I say real Paz is dead?
Yes, that was a Dusty theory. The real Paz is dead. And
did you counter that, or did you just not have anything for it?
I didn't have anything for that one specifically, because I don't know.
2 points.
I figured that, I don't know. I was just frustrated by the fact that Pause was going to come back, so I didn't really.
All right, so the real Pause is dead. That is a point for me, which we'll go more into Pause later. Next theory.
The next theory was the weapon to surpass Metal Gear theory. Now, this is one where we directly opposed each other. Dusty, you thought that the weapon to surpass Metal Gear was
genetic.
Another Metal Gear.
No. I thought it was genetic, and you thought it was biological.
Nah, bro. Like, look right here.
No, I don't know why you wrote that down. I said my idea was genetic, and yours was biological.
I don't remember.
I think what happened was I said it would be another Metal Gear as a joke, and then you said it would be biological, and then I was like, okay, well then let me change my answer to genetic then, and I guess you never wrote that down. Either way, you get the point, because it the vocal cord parasites that were detracted with Wolbachia and Pax Hamburgana. It was biological. It was created in a lab, though. I want to very frivolously argue that it could be considered genetic, because you could argue that since it attacks your language or lingua franca, it could kind of be based on your genetics, though that's not true at all.
That's not what a lingua franca is. That's not your language. It's a common tongue.
I know. I just want to try and fight it, even though you get the point because it is biological. No, there was one more theory. There was one more theory that you didn't write down, and it was Operation Intrude N313.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the theory being, and this was Daniel's theory, there was no refuting it, and it was actually something I really wanted to be true. And the theory was that the post-credit scene where it would show the logo of the game and there would be people talking.
Logo here.
Yep. It would be the opening codec call between Big Boss and Solid Snake for Operation Intrude N313.
Which, for those of you that don't spend your lives memorizing pointless trivia about awesome game franchises,
it's the opening codec call in the very first Metal Gear on the MSX in 1987, which took place in 1995, and infiltrating Outer Heaven.
We might brush on later.
So, I want to give you a half point for that. I've already told you this. Reason being is the tape that says "From the Man Who Sold the World" that Venom Snake gets, where Big Boss explains to him that he is not Naked Snake, but they are both Big Boss. On the back of it, it does say Operation Intrude N313, which begs the question: when does that take place? Does it take place in '95? Does it still take place in '84?
We'll brush on that when we actually get to the ending. Too.
He plays it, and it's like it's noise. It's kind of like in Ground Zeroes, that tape the real tape that you're supposed to find in the Intel operative side op, where you have to find the tape that the guy is supposed to give you, and it's just like noise, but they're like, oh, it's a code, which I want to go into something about that later too.
That's the way that stuff was stored on magnetic tape.
Yeah,
like in for computers back in the old days.
So even though there was no codec call, and it was just a tape that said Operation Intrude N313, I still want to give you half a point, because it still has something to do in the game. Like they still referenced it. You really shouldn't get a half point, but it really doesn't matter because I have 2 points anyways.
Well, thank you. That was very gracious.
So, final tally. So, I guess the winner of MGS5, the theories, is Daniel. Yay! I should have come up with more.
I think that's how I got it. I got the win. I was more aggressive with my theory.
Yeah, I just couldn't think of anything. I will say I feel like it'd be partly because you came up with a lot of really good ones, and I was just like, oh, that's a good one.
That's the thing. You got to be aggressive. Get your theories out.
And I feel like we probably should have done more one or the others. Like, you think this, I think this. Kind of like piloting a Metal Gear Skullface. I spelled Skullface wrong. Skullface. Skullface being a new character. Zero. Well, Quiet wasn't a thing. We kind of almost the closest thing we did with that was the Snake versus Kaz, Ocelot versus Kaz.
But I think we're done with this. I think these people want to get.
Anyways,
I mean, and we probably will have an annotation that you can skip all this anyway.
Yeah, I'll throw one up there. So yeah, Daniel wins. Anyways, let's get into the meat of it after like 20 minutes. Metal Gear Solid 5. What did you think of the ending?
Oh boy.
All right, if it's okay, let me preface this. So the final mission, mission 46, takes you back to it's not Day 1 Dehar, is it? Or that's somewhere in Afghanistan.
No, it's
Dikelia.
Cyprus.
The Dikelia Hospital in Cyprus. The opening mission, the prologue, mission 0, and you play through it again, all the way up until the car crash. And in the opening cutscenes where the doctor is waking you up, not only do you have subtitles on all of the words that were spoken in a different language that you didn't get to see subtitles for in the first time through, which really isn't too big of a thing. The only thing that is, like, I would say important in that is where they're saying prepping him for plastic surgery.
Yeah.
Which even then, like, you could have seen that in the prologue, and then when he comes up and he's like, "There's people that want you dead. We need to change your face." It still would make sense. So the biggest change,
and that'll actually come in later, like the fact that you could see subtitles.
Yeah, the biggest change is it starts out with the cutscene that we saw after Ground Zeroes, where it was Kaz, Big Boss, and some person, which we now know is the medic, lying like in the hospital in Cyprus, and they're trying to resuscitate Big Boss.
They're also trying to intubate him and all that.
Yeah, and Kaz looks over and he's like, "What about him?"
Which is the scene that I think in like one of the E3 2013 trailers, something like that.
Yeah.
That I had completely forgotten about.
I hadn't. I just disregarded it.
And you know, when I saw that scene, I was thinking, oh yeah, you know what? This was even as far back as 2013. The breadcrumbs had been sprinkled for what the ending ended up being.
Yeah. So at the very end of that cutscene, where like it would normally cut off after Kaz says, "What about him?" The doctor comes over and says something along the lines of, "He took some shrapnel to the head," and then it cuts to the man who sold the world playing, and then you lying in the bed and going through all that. And then when the doctor comes up to you to talk to you about facial surgery later on, he holds the mirror up, and it's the character that you created when he did that at the beginning of the game, which at this point you already know that you're not the Big Boss that we come to know because of the wonderful opening credits that are very good at spoiling what's going to happen in the mission. Because when you have opening credits that say starring Big Boss, Kazuhira Miller, Revolver Ocelot, Quiet, and then Punished Venom Snake, it kind of takes away that surprise, even though I think you're supposed to. No, it does it in that cutscene with Kaz on the hospital bed, doesn't it? Yeah. So before you even really realize that you're not Naked Snake, for sake of argument, let's just call him Naked Snake from now on. It tells you that you're not in the opening credits.
Yeah.
And
that's not the only mission. It spoils.
Yeah, anytime that Skullface is in a mission, or the Man on Fire, or Psycho Manus, we're gonna call him Psycho Manus for sake of argument because it's freaking Psycho Manus. There's no doubt in my mind.
And you can't pronounce Tretish Rebiana.
I can't pronounce that, no.
And also, they also did that with Sahelanthropus. Yeah, the spoilery credits really they ruin a lot of missions. They show you like the Man on Fire. They'll tell you if Skullface is in it. Yeah. Not a fan. That really hurt my enjoyment of quite a few missions until I learned, because I was like, okay, well, I'm tired of. It was after like the first time you run into Skullface and the.
Yeah, in the Honeybee mission.
Yeah, so I at that
great
point,
mission.
Great mission. I started looking away during that until I heard like the rotor sound of like where they slow down
it's
so
like,
you can land.
it creaks so you can like jump off.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just kind of know that noise. So, anyways, the surgeon shows you the mirror, saying that this is what you used to look like. We need to change your face, and then it cuts to saying 48 hours later, and then what you thought was just the screen fading to black originally, and then coming back, and they're just like, I know, there's people that want you dead, blah blah blah. It now says 48 hours later. You're post-op, and he shows you the pictures. Though instead of him just saying the pictures down and then getting strangled by Quiet, who you find out is, which if you remember, let me just very tangential really quickly. When we were both playing it, because we both, I brought my Xbox One up here, and I was like set up on the dining room table over there as Daniel was on his TV, and we were both playing it at the same time. We wanted to start at the same time.
Alright, bros.
Yeah.
Gaming together.
Which my excuse was I don't have internet, but I mean still, I still would have wanted to do it that way anyways. I remember I was like, is that Quiet? I was like, that looks like Quiet. And then she gets burned, and I'm like, well, never mind. Turns out that was Quiet. Point for me!
Belated points here.
Yeah! I was also right in thinking that we weren't Naked Snake. Point for me!
Well, but you didn't come up with those theories until mid-game.
It was late, but still. Point for me! So, anyways, he shows you the pictures, then he grabs the pictures, moves them aside, and then you see that that's you, the character that you made, and on the back it says, good luck, the name you entered, Vic Boss. Anyways, point being, you go through, you learn that you're not Naked Snake, and that Ishmael...
Which came as some surprise.
And it turns out that Ishmael was actually Naked Snake, and then after the car crash, Ocelot takes him out, gives him some clothes, gives him some miracle facial hair grow, and puts him on a motorcycle, gives him a passport with your name on it, and he leaves. Where it's assumed that, which it's kind of up in the air whether he went to Zanzibar land to help with the mercenary wars, or he went to Africa to build Outer Heaven.
That's not up in the air at all. It's like the...
Show me some things for that. I'm still kind of...
See, well, it's during the end credit crawl. You know how they, you guys know how they do
dates.
The dates and all that. Well, they talk about how Venom Snake is killed during the Outer Heaven raid.
Hang on, let me see if I can find a picture of it. You can continue talking.
So they take Snake, Solid Snake. We need to make sure we get our snake straight here. Solid Snake takes out Venom Snake in Africa, which South Africa, and I think it's called Galsburg, which is a fake town anyway. So really, who cares? Then Big Boss the real Big Boss has to go into hiding because Big Boss, as we know him, was he was killed during a fight on or as Snake was trying to escape from Outer Heaven. And so then Big Boss, I think he was part of something called the Mercenary Wars, which took place, in Central Asia, in the Afghanistan, Pakistan area, I'm pretty sure. And Big Boss and a couple of his mercenary bros, they joined up. They fought off, I think it was the Russians who were trying to reclaim the land or something like that, and it became this independent territory known as Zanzibar land.
Okay, I have the thing up. So it starts we'll talk only in terms of care. Well, before we get into this, let's actually talk about the ending. So, what did you think about the twist about you not being Naked Snake anymore?
Not really a fan. Partially because of, I think that it had been done before. It was a recycled idea from Metal Gear Solid 2, which, if for some reason you hadn't played that game, sorry, you don't play as Solid Snake during that game. And although that one's a little more blatant about it, I feel like this one it's just a recycling of an old concept. So I wasn't a fan of it from that standpoint. And I also was really not a fan of it from the standpoint that it didn't really give you any context for the revelation. Like, once the revelation had happened, it was not really clear when it had happened. Although, it's clear that some time had passed, because when you see Venom Snake, after he finds out, you see that he's in, like, full demon form, which, for those of you who don't know what, full demon form is, like, he's got, like, super horn going, his face is smeared with the blood of his enemies or whatever, or maybe his own blood. It's really kind of weird and gross.
I think it's like the metaphorical blood of his enemies.
Still weird and gross. You could get like metaphorical AIDS that way.
Dire AIDS. Yeah.
But anyway, I was not a fan of that. Also, it just seems kind of cheesy to me.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let me. I'm gonna be the opposite. I liked it. I thought it worked. And with the no.
How did it work?
Well, I will say. I mean, let me just say this really quickly. I love how it explains Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2, about how in Metal Gear, Solid Snake fights Big Boss's Phantom, known as Venom Snake, kills him, which leads for Naked Snake to go to Zanzibar Land and do his whatever's there for 4 years. And then when Solid Snake goes to Zanzibar Land in 99, he fights Naked Snake, which I feel like I can't really say the real Big Boss, because as Big Boss had stated, we are both, I don't know the actual line, but we're both Big Boss. We both make up the legend.
See, but that's another
I am
problem
him and you are him as well.
I don't like that it violates the rule of there is only one boss and there is one snake. I don't like how that violates that. Well, and I think it damages the character of Big Boss, and in a way that was not intended necessarily.
Yeah. Well, there was I think what it's supposed to mean is there is one Big Boss, but Big Boss stopped being a person, more so he became an idea. He became a legend.
Let the legend come back to life.
Let the legend come. Yeah.
That was the one good line that... No, that's not true. We can talk about that in a second.
But, yeah, I think the point was that Big Boss became an idea. And he became just like...
He became a meme?
Yeah, that's actually very true. Memetics have been a central point in the series since MGS2. So I feel like that's actually... I know you meant that as a joke, but I feel like...
Well, it was a joke, but it was also serious.
Yeah, but I feel like that also does apply. So he became, like, a person of legend, which he had been. But it was just there were now two physical beings that made up that one legend. So, whereas Naked Snake was the, 64 through 75 aspect of that legend, and then Venom Snake was 84 through 95, and then it was Naked again in 99 and 2014. So they both kind of make the two halves of Big Boss.
That's not two halves. if you add up the years,
then it's very substantially in Naked Snake's favor, mostly because he lived longer.
We'll see who lives longer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't like how it.
I think it works.
It changes the character of Big Boss significantly, and not in a way that makes sense. Like him, to steal a phrase from the trailer, goes nuclear. It was more just. I don't know. He just was underhanded and disloyal, really.
I think the issue with it is there was probably supposed to be more about it, but it just wasn't. It wasn't able to be done in time.
Which takes me back to my other point. There's not a whole lot of context for the revelation. Like, I feel like if the revelation had been followed by another chapter, which I think,
like Chapter 3, which is titled Peace.
I mean,
they found the card. It's known that there was supposed to be at least a third chapter. At least as of right now, I think it's known that people have found it and whatever.
I feel like that would have given... I would have felt better about the ending that way. But my problem with the ending is that they had 5 years to make this game, and the fact that it had as much cut content, as it did was extraordinarily disappointing.
That being said, with as much content there is in the game, it is more than worth its $60 price tag. As opposed to, let's, go back into this example, Destiny, which was $60, and it had about $20 worth of content.
Okay, let's get this 100% clear. I don't want any of you keyboard gangsters being like, oh, you hate the game, go die in a hole. No, I love the game. We both love the game, for that matter.
It's my favorite Metal Gear Solid, personally.
Say what? Anyway.
I told you this like weeks ago.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
Doesn't matter.
You said, can you really say that already? I said, I've already put 20 hours into it, and you're like, well, that makes sense.
I have a terrible memory, apparently.
I have like 50 hours in it now.
Anyway, so we've been playing it a ton, and I will continue to play it a ton for the foreseeable next several months.
Yeah, I'm gonna 100% it.
It's a really good game, but I do have a lot of problems.
It's coming. It's coming.
Oh yeah, eventually we would like to play it for you guys. Also,
let me just do a small tangent really quickly. I'm going to be saving up for an Elgato soon, so I can do recordings for an Xbox One or PlayStation 4, as well as I've heard is like the better recording device, capture device. So I might retire my PVR a little bit, or if when we're doing Peace Walker, because we're gonna do Peace Walker, we can use both. Record yours, record mine. Hey, co-op, yeah, it's gonna be wonderful. But yeah, so MGS5 will come. But
we're a long way away.
I don't know when. Which I probably actually should upload an episode of MGS3. Let me do that. I'm gonna do that in the background. I keep on forgetting, but yeah.
You're leaving me hanging here. But the point is,
I'm still gonna talk to you. I'm just gonna do this on the side. To date, I'm currently going to be uploading, I think, episode 20.
I guess I just wasn't a big fan of that. I wasn't a big fan of the story in a lot of ways. Not to say it was strictly speaking a bad story, because
20.
I thought the revenge aspects that was great.
Oh, chapter 1 was incredible.
Chapter 1 was super good. When we got around the part where what's his name? Code Talker showed up.
Wolbachia.
That became the rest of the game. Wolbachia. Dene.
Vocal cord parasite.
English strain.
My only issue with Code Talker was that his tapes, while interesting, were so long.
His tapes weren't interesting. They were like biology. Classes that you ignored in high school.
I liked them. I liked learning about the vocal cord parasite because I liked the vocal cord parasite. I thought it was an interesting.
No, the vocal cord parasite was lame.
See, this is why we're doing this, is because we have differing opinions on it.
The vocal cord parasites, it could have been an interesting idea. I liked how it sort of... It was a way of like touching on like the strife between, various ethnic groups.
Yeah.
But it just didn't really come down... It didn't come off, at least, to me. I thought it was just kind of like, okay, so there's bugs in your throat, and they taught humanity how to speak somehow, and I don't know, that was frustrating, because I thought that the vocal cord parasites were just a roundabout way of going back to the old idea of nanomachines, and that was another big disappointment I had with the game. I was really hoping that we were going to get back to like how things were when the series kind of started, and it was there was a lot of supernatural sort of aspects, like...
Oh, there absolutely was, though.
Well...
Third child? Psychomantis?
Well, yeah. Psychomantis, which is who remains the only truly supernatural figure in this series. But, going back and explaining the...
No, also the Cobra unit.
No, the Cobra unit were explained by using parasites.
No, just the end.
I thought... We'll put an annotation here, with whoever was right about that one. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a fan of that. I was also not a fan of the fire whale. That was never explained.
Yeah.
That was just kind of over the top. But it was Metal Gear being self-aware with its over the top nature.
It was such a lust for Moby Dick. There you go. That's your explanation.
That's another thing. The sort of, I guess I kind of get the Moby Dick allusions because Moby Dick is a tale of revenge. This is a tale of revenge.
Come on, Ahab.
But it doesn't really follow the story of Moby Dick, so that it just feels like they just use the like Ahab and Pequod, and they use those names.
Ishmael.
Yeah, they use those names, but it didn't strongly enough allude.
I will say one of the common complaints is that people think a lot of things I've heard people say is the game kind of threw its threw its best hand forward first. I don't know if I used that term right, but like with the prologue. The prologue is one of the best parts of the game.
Which is
like,
absolutely
the pacing was wonderful. The storytelling was great. It was, you know, the gameplay was pretty lacking, but it was a tutorial for the most part.
The thing about the prologue that I noticed, and I need to go back and play it again, but I thought the prologue
4 times.
looks better than the rest of the game. Like flat out.
Like aesthetically?
No, the graphics. I thought that things looked better rendered and.
Oh, I don't know. Africa looks great, but Afghanistan looks wonderful. Like just that opening shot in Spug May Keep when you're coming in with Ocelot and you just get a view of the land.
Okay,
that's one of the best looking shots in the game.
That's another thing we can talk about. Are we done with like the big talk about the ending and
I think for now.
Chord?
I think for now we should move on.
Yeah.
You liked the ending, I didn't. We'll go more into the implications of the ending.
I didn't like the ending, you did.
Did I reverse that? I liked the ending, you didn't.
It's not.
We can go into what it means for the future of the series in terms of the timeline later, but let's try and stick to the game
One
itself.
thing that I was...
Let's go on a positive note about the game.
Oh, I was going to talk about another thing I was really disappointed
No, go ahead.
Which was, I really hated how the areas were just completely devoid of, like when you go to Afghanistan, you should have been like running into the Mujahideen, like the Hamids, you know, all those kind of people.
Instead, it's just the Soviets for the most part.
Yeah, it's just the Soviets, and there's nothing and no one there. You don't get a sense of there being the culture, and that's the same. The same is true of Africa. You don't run into the only thing that's definably African about it is the fact that occasionally you see zebras, people speak Afrikaans, and I don't know. Those are the only two things that there was no. You didn't get to interact with like the cultures or the people. Which was really disappointing because I remember during the run up to it and the hype, they were talking about how there was going to be like discussions about race and they were going to touch on that kind of stuff. And that wasn't really something that was delivered on.
I think the game tried to be. It was like very ambitious and it wanted to do so many. I think Kojima wanted to do so many things with it, and probably could have with more time. But
well, how much more time did he need? He had 5 years.
Well, remember, most of that time was made building the Fox engine. Like, he wanted to release Ground Zeroes not long after Peace Walker, but it ended up being 4 years later. And Ground Zeroes was first announced in, I want to say it was 2010. It may have been 2011, because I remember going to my friend's house, and he was showing me, it was like 10 minutes of gameplay footage for Ground Zeroes, and it was like 2010 or 2011. And it was Camp Omega. It was like, whoa!
Speaking of another thing that wasn't
and Snake's hair was gray, and we were like, whoa! Why is his hair gray? And then they're like, oh, it was a lighting issue.
I think that I don't know. They did it in Metal Gear Solid 4, and I think Metal Gear Solid 4 came out not terribly long after.
It came out 4 years after 3.
Okay, so it's the same time frame. And but Metal Gear Solid 4 seemed more alive in that aspect because like when you would go to like the Middle East and when you went to South America, you know, you would run into the resistance fighters, and I thought that was cool. That was one of my favorite aspects.
Oh, I loved in MGS4 in the in Chapter 1 when you're in the Middle East, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How both sides, the PMCs and the militia, they will fight you, but if you don't fight the militia and help them take out the PMCs, they will notice that you did that, think that you're an ally, and be like, oh, thanks, man. And then when you, like, later on in the chapter, when you go into... Which, by the way, we're doing this in the Let's Play. We are going to side with the militia. We're going to keep them friends. When you go into their hideout later on in the mission, where you can find the Assassin's Creed robes. Though you don't have to sneak through it. You can run through it and they'll be like, "Oh, hey, it's you," and you're just like, "Yeah, hey, later."
See, so
you don't have to like sneak through it and like kill them potentially or whatever.
It didn't, it doesn't need to be. It didn't need to be like a big Mass Effect-esque cultures and talking and interacting with other people. It didn't necessarily need to be that, but I was genuinely disappointed that there was so little interaction with local people. It just kind of made the places, and I know this has been a criticism, and I don't want to be unfair with it, but it did seem a little empty in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, to counter that, I'm scrolling up through this thing really quickly because I want to get to these important ones, like Liquid and Solid being sent into the battlefield. Which I'll probably like to have screenshots of these and put them up when we're talking about it. But I wanna just throw this out there. I mean, a lot of open world games are kind of barren in between landmarks. So I feel like this is kind of an unfair criticism saying that the world is empty and flat, because there are a lot of ways that Kojima put in the game to kind of alleviate that. Like there's the invoices in all of the major outposts, that if you find the invoices are amazing. Seriously, look for the invoices. They're like these little like cargo things in each main area. You grab them, you grab an invoice thing off of it, and you can take a cardboard box and fast travel between every major location. It's wonderful. So there's invoices for that. There's a plethora of vehicles that you can use to travel.
See, but that doesn't change what
I will say, like, really quickly, I don't like how Africa was made because of the mountains and the ravines. Like, aesthetically, it looks wonderful. It's a beautiful, desert land.
Are you talking about Afghanistan?
Did I say Africa?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I meant Afghanistan. It looks great. Like, it's a beautiful place. But when you're trying to go somewhere, and then you look on the map, and then you realize you took a wrong turn in the fork, and there's a mountain blocking you, so you have to backtrack all the way around that mountain just to get where you're trying to go. It's so frustrating because you're just like, come on. And since I like using quiet, and I don't like sending vehicles down with me, I'm just either running or hoping that I find an outpost where somebody's driving something so I can take that instead and commandeer that. See, and then get to hear someone be like, CP, my vehicle's gone. And then CP's just like, there's no reports of a stolen vehicle. Someone must have needed it. You're gonna walk. And just like, ha ha. I love doing that.
The thing about it is, you still should, you should see those people. You should see the people that are in the.
I was right.
Yeah, but
really quickly,
we were both half.
While commanding Special Forces Unit Foxhound from a position in the U.S. military, Big Boss establishes the fortified military nation Outer Heaven in South Africa. The Outer Heaven uprising occurs, but it is quashed by Solid Snake, who kills Big Boss's Phantom, which is implied Venom Snake. Big Boss, who is implied Naked Snake, establishes Outer Heaven in South Africa. Boom!
Yeah, but they're both Big Boss.
Yes, they are, but he's being called Big Boss's Phantom. Venom Snake is in this text.
Well,
because that's kind of what he becomes, the Phantom of Big Boss, two halves of a whole.
I guess it doesn't.
I'm right.
You're gonna have to cut and put this back earlier, right?
No. This is just a small tangent.
Anyway, the point is, I was not a fan of how you couldn't run into the interact with the local cultures.
Yeah,
another
that
thing
cool.
that along these lines is that Mother Base is so pointlessly boring.
Yeah, I was looking forward to being able to do some stuff in Mother Base, because one of my favorite things about Peace Walker was in the Mother Base menu, working with your R&D team, sending people out to Outer Ops, looking at Zeke. Messing with your staff, trying to figure out what ranks were on your teams and how to level them up higher, and trying to plan around that, and firing people, and learning finally that you can do multiple people at a time and then fire them all at once instead of doing it one at a time. Peace Walker was great.
But what I wanted it to be kind of like the Normandy in in Mass Effect. I wanted to be able to go back, and I wanted to, talk to the staff. I wanted to talk to Miller. I wanted to talk to...
Boss, do you have time for a mock battle?
I wanted it to be more than that. I wanted to talk to Ocelot, and,
My favorite thing to do in Mother Base, which you're only able to do this very briefly, is when Dee Dee is still a puppy, or I guess a little baby wolf, because he's a wolf, I guess, is when you'll come down to Mother Base, and then he'll just, he'll scamper up to you, and he's just like, just jumping up and barking, and you're just like, Dee Dee! And you just, crouch down, and you want to pet him, but there's no option to, so you're just,
That's
staring
another
at
thing.
him.
How dare you, Kojima? I wanted to pet the puppy.
You can pet D-Dog as an adult, which
How
is
dare
cool, and he sounds like he whimpers when you do it, which
Well,
is
because
weird.
Boss does not, he just...
Good.
Quiet.
Quiet. But
Dee Dee. How do the enemies not do it? Anyway,
I love Dee Dee. Dee Dee is wonderful.
but unfortunately is replaced by Quiet.
Yeah, but he is a very great substitute. I've been using Dee Dee exclusively because I'm working on getting his bond to max, because he's the last buddy I have to max out the bond for, and the only thing that he can't do that Quiet does that I've really... Okay, the only thing it seems like Quiet is better than Dee Dee at doing is the fact that you can send her out to scout an area before you get there, and the fact that she can trank people really quickly. But Dee Dee can find enemies, he can find enemies and prisoners from really far away. Not quite far because you can't send him out to scout somewhere, but he can find them still. And you can get armor for him that will have him knock enemies out. So you can send him to go knock out enemies. So...
But he takes damage a lot more easily, and he's way easier
he's out
to
in
take
the open. Because he's out in the open. But that being said, after you lose Quiet through Mission 45,
hashtag never forget.
Yeah.
Hashtag Sniper Bay.
Yeah, man, Kojima, please put her back in the game, please. God, please. She's wonderful.
We can talk about Quiet later and the various misgivings.
Yeah, but Dee Dee is a very adequate substitute. He's just not a sniper.
I go with using D-Walker with the scouting head.
I've never used D-Walker. So, yeah. Let me backtrack a second. Because I was kind of talking about Africa. I was talking about Afghanistan.
The rains down in Africa.
I love that song.
That should have been in the game.
I love Africa.
Kojima.
I love Africa. It's a lot more flat, so you can...
It's easy to traverse.
It's very easy to traverse, because you can be in the middle of the map, the huge bulk of it. Basically everything except for Lufwa Valley, which is where the mansion was, with Kotaker.
And isn't the industrial area, the Devil's House?
That's completely blocked off after you do that mission. You can only go to that area through the mission. But you could be at Kaziba camp and set a marker for Novobroska Airport and just straight line to it. Most of the time, it's a relatively straight line. There are some mountains or plateaus here and there, but it's still substantially more flat than Africa, which is great for traversing, unless you have invoices, in which case it's invoice. But Africa's wonderful though. I love that it rains there. It's so green and tropical. I'm really not trying to reference Toto, even though that's a wonderful song. But
I guess it would have been almost too obvious to put it in the game.
Yeah, but yeah, I really enjoy free roaming in Africa. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've noticed that
aesthetically, I like Afghanistan more, but from a gameplay point of view, I like Africa more.
I would say aesthetically and gameplay, but I prefer Africa. I get kind of irritated with Afghanistan because, as you mentioned, you're just in these mountain, you're just kind of in these corridors. It feels kind of choked. And Big Boss, he's no Dovahkiin when it comes to climbing, we'll say.
Mountain Climbing Simulator 2011, Game of the Year edition.
He just... the climbing is you know, it's not as effective as I would have hoped. So you don't.
Yeah, there's like a very small incline, and you're trying to sprint up, and he's like, and keeps on sliding down. And you're just like tapping. For me, Y, for you, triangle. You're tapping and trying to get him to climb up, and he's just like, and then you just like stop, move like two inches to the left, and go, and then the prompt comes up to climb up, and you're just like, come on, this isn't slick.
I guess one thing. Let's do a good thing, because we've been. One thing that I really liked about the game.
Yeah, let's really shift gears to the goodness of the game.
I loved how you. It's just. It's a joy to play. Let's be real. Like it's super fun. It's super. I love how you can get creative with the way you do things. So I'll talk about the mission I was most recently doing. It was the one where you have to take out what's his name, the major. Yeah, it's the mission in Africa where there was the guy called. It was after you do the.
Oh yeah. The other day when you were trying to do it, and you're trying to get the missile guidance prisoner. Yeah, because
I forgot. I missed him.
Yeah.
I really love how. That in that game type, it gives you an objective, it gives you guidance about how you can do it, but it's up to you to figure out how to do it, like where to set up an ambush to catch the major, or to do things like there's a helicopter.
Jump a 4-wheel drive into the camp, dive out of it, and then like be facing the major right in front of you.
Yeah,
like you did that one time, which was really funny.
Yeah. Or like that's one thing I when I actually did it successfully after you'd gone home. I sent the tank into the camp. They're like, whoa, it's a tank, and I just kind of snuck around the back and just tranked everybody and folded them out. But one thing is there's a helicopter in that mission, and if you take the helicopter out because it's sort of a timed mission because you have to find him before he gets in the helicopter and escapes. If you take out that helicopter, he's stuck. He can't go anywhere.
He can't leave the mission zone for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason. Even though he'll go to like the very end of the mission zone, but he won't leave the mission zone.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that's just one example. There's a bunch of different ways you can accomplish. Pretty much every mission has more than one way, and it kind of adds to the. And I don't mean more than one way, like one route, but there are different methods you could carry out. Like there's. I don't know. Pretty much every mission that you can play, you could either solve it in a very stealthy way, or as I call it, you go nuclear. And I try to play stealthy, but if you've watched the Let's Plays, I'm bad. I'm very bad.
I'm not much better when I'm on camera.
And I like how in the game that it doesn't penalize you anymore for taking out enemies in a lethal way. I think that is very. It's good because they were trying to do a story about revenge. So I'm glad that they weren't going to like still keep you to that stringent but don't hurt anyone sort of mindset. Another thing I loved about the game, the CQC. Oh my gosh, the CQC in this game is so cool.
Oh, like absolutely.
There's if you watch it, it's very intricate. Like there's this one time where this guy was struggling with a knife, and Big Boss like took in this one disarm animation, he takes his robot arm and like uses it and spins it and rips the knife out of the guy's hand. It's really cool. For the first several, really even now, but for the first several missions, I pretty much used only CQC because it was just so much fun. It's very easily the best CQC in any of the games. That's good. Another thing that's really good is although the weapons aren't quite as customizable as I remember the ones in MGS4 being, there's a lot of different types of weapons, which allows you to use a lot of different ways. One of my favorite tools is to use the active decoy. Both because you can actually stun them if you like throw it at their feet. The Big Boss decoy pops out and it knocks them over and stuns them for some reason. That's actually probably my favorite way of handling the heavy troopers. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I mean, unless I get if they see me anyway, I prefer to. The one thing, I guess I'll go back to CQC for a second. The CQC is pretty much the most powerful thing because you get the enemies with a lot of armor on and helmets. You have to kind of chip away at that, and then it takes some time. But the thing about CQC is
you just do a quick throw and they're stunned.
Yeah, they're down.
Fulton, yeah, that's it. Yeah, really quickly. I mean, you said like talking about that mission with the major that you were doing. I remember when we were first playing the game.
No,
I thought you were pointing at the camera.
I was just like, hey, to the audience.
When we were both like playing the game, mission 1, Phantom Limbs, where you have to rescue Kaz. It kind of just drops you down, and Ocelot is like, hey, we think he's in Dewan Dehar.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think it was Dewan Dehar is what it's called. Ocelot's like, hey, we think that he's here, but we need more intel. So why don't you try going to Dewilo camp or whatever and searching for some intel there. And so he's like, put a marker here. And it's
marking placed.
Yeah, marker placed, marker removed.
That was another kind of awkward thing. It was hard to remove markers except on this.
It just kind of like throws you down, and you just kind of go, and it really kind of drops you into the open world setting, and it really just kind of like throws you into the game.
It's good about treating you like you know how to play a game.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold your hand.
I was Nikolai's here.
And now we're going to have a break.
No, we're fine. Hey. I think that mission ended up taking me about an hour. I think you did it in about 30 or 45 minutes.
Well, yeah, but that's because you were like crawling all over the world, grabbing every diamond.
I went
inside.
to
and we're
just walk by the camera. I went to like every outpost, every well, not every single one. I didn't go to the one in the far north. I forgot what it was called because there's a subtask for taking out a truck driver and a major or whatever in that place. But yeah, like I went to the Wilo village or whatever. I went to outposts. I was like doing everything I thought that I could along at least the south side of the mission zone. Just like finding resources, like taking out guys. Like I had very luckily found a suppressor because I didn't know about supply drops yet. And like by the time I made it to where Miller was, it had already been like 45 minutes or so, and I hadn't been seen yet. I had reflexed a couple of times, but I hadn't gotten an alert phase. And then like one thing happens, and I get an alert. I'm just like, screw it. So I just start killing everyone, and then I make it to Miller. I clear out the outpost, make it to Miller, and
outpost capture.
And then the skulls come. And by the way, escaping the skulls without being seen is one of the craziest things, because how I had to do it when I was replaying the mission the other day was I went down into the ravine on the right side because there's two sides. There's the left side and the right side of under the bridge. Mm-hmm. And there's 2 skulls coming on the bridge and 2 coming on the left side. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait for them to go on the bridge and go down the right side. So I go down on the right side, and then they both start coming down the right side. So I'm like, what the heck? So they both start coming down. So I sneak back up and then go across the bridge, and it's like a 5-minute process because they're super slow. And
again,
that's how I had to escape.
Could you get around that using an active decoy?
I have no idea. I've never used active decoys, so I don't really know.
Active decoys are the best.
My loadout is very lame. It's the Woo pistol. I'm using the rubber ball assault rifle. If I'm not using that, I'm using that standard assault rifle that you get from the start of the game, and J fatigues. That's it. That's
the one thing. That's another thing that I'm not. I guess I'm not adventurous enough to play the game.
I'm not,
because I don't change up my loadout very often, and I think that the game kind of, it's supposed to try to counteract you doing those things, but unlike Batman, I think Batman Arkham Knight did a good job of. That was the game that was best at, and also Alien Isolation. Games are getting better slowly at figuring out how you're playing them and then turning it back on you. This game, it tried to do that, but it really wasn't very successful.
I thought it did it pretty well. Like, you focused on headshots, people start wearing helmets, meaning you have to be a lot more direct with your headshots if you still want to take them out with that. Especially, like, non-lethally. If you do body shots, they'll wear body armor. If you do CQC, they'll equip shotguns. If you do it at night a lot, they'll use flashlights or night vision goggles more. I thought it was very well done, like how they'll adapt to you. I mean, I can very easily counteract it, but even still, it makes it like that much harder. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been like, I had like a critical injury because I'd be seen and I'm like sprinting and I do to take him out really quickly, and he shotguns me, and it's like the worst. It's like, stop it. And you try and get to him again and he shotguns you again. You're just like, I'm about to die, come on. And then you CQC slam him and you're just like, gotta hide. But, yeah, just that first occurrence in Mission 1 of just being dropped down in the open world and being able to explore it was just, like, wonderful. I loved doing that. That was a lot of fun.
Okay, so since I'm going to continue to play the bad guy in this discussion, I didn't like Skullface. I thought that Skullface was the most pointless and impotent villain in the Metal Gear Solid franchise.
To be more of the
fanboy?
The fanboy, yes, thank you. I liked Skullface. I love, well, okay, hang on. Let me think of how to word this. I love how Kojima portrayed him in Ground Zeroes. I am not advocating anything that happened in Ground Zeroes. Don't get me wrong. I just love
Dusty
the kind
supports torture.
The torture rape? No, God no. I love the way that Kojima set the character up in Ground Zeroes. I thought he did very well at making this guy, like this character that we had that had no knowledge about, and just giving us just enough information to see what kind of man he was, with the whole Chico and Paz torture scene, which culminated in him having Chico rape her, and the whole like bomb implants into Paz, which I want to remind me to talk about Paz next time because we need to go into Paz eventually. So I really love the setup of his character. I will say in Phantom Pain, it is kind of a shift, and it's a weird kind of shift.
Well, they changed him from a very malevolent figure, like in Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, where he's just like, he's really scary, really creepy. He seems like someone not to mess with. And then in Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, you get, what? Who's doing this? Such a lust for revenge? Oh! I mean, and that becomes the most...
I love that line. So much.
I don't love it realistically, but I love it ironically.
I love it. I love it the same way that I love something like "You're tearing me apart, Lisa." Like something like that. It's just a ridiculously wonderful line. Or I guess in a similar way that I love the Scissor 61 line.
See, but that one made more sense than
this one was pure just nonsense. But like. There's a shift in Skullface's character, it seems, in Phantom Pain. That being said, there's 9 years of time in this.
So he goes from being a serious villain to a cartoon villain?
Well, I mean, like, he amasses more power and
becomes a cartoon character.
I don't know. I mean, the Lone Ranger mask is kind of odd. I don't really know why they ever like put him in that.
When you were on that like the Jeep ride for like 9 hours with him and his stupid mask, and he was staring at you like the whole time.
Sins never die. Can't wash this blood off our hands.
It was.
I love that part.
That was really awkward. But
I loved it.
The thing that frustrated me is that you never got to fight him really. Like you didn't even fight him like controlling a robot. There's no.
I loved his like last monologue, where he's like trapped behind the fire, and he's like saying something about how like he may die here, but his plans are gonna live on. And he's like, "Major, I'm burning up," and then Sahelanthropus just slams down. I loved that. That was amazing. And then when you after you beat Sahelanthropus and you go and see Skullface, and he's like, "Kill me," And then, did you fire or did you wait for Kaz to grab your gun?
I think I waited for Kaz.
Yeah. Okay. When you fire, it's Snake. He fires like he hits him like somewhere in the chest area, a couple of times, and like each time he does it, his character model changes into the Decalia hospital outfit where he has like the bandage over his head. You see like his blind eyes and like the scrubs, and he has like the hook hand thingy, and then when Miller grabs it, and then you like blow off his left leg and his right arm, and oh god, that was wonderful. That was one of the best scenes in the game.
That
in my
was
opinion.
when the game was. That was just about near the peak of the game in terms of story. That's because they were still focusing on like revenge as the main theme and not vocal cord parasites.
Yeah. We do need to wrap this up really quickly because it looks like the battery's getting low as well. But I thought Skullface was... I think Skullface was best portrayed in the cassette tapes, especially in his interactions with Zero, because I loved his tape with Zero. I thought that was an awesome tape.
That kept up his mystique and his evil. But the unfortunate thing is that his plan was kind of nonsense, and his he wanted revenge on the English language and destroy the lingua franca that was responsible or it wasn't necessarily responsible, but the dominant lingua franca that had basically dominated the world at that point. So I can understand it, and it's not the best laid plans in the series. It's absolutely not. Well, I think doesn't at one point.
I mean, compared to Hot Cold Man's though.
That's true.
Hot Cold Man was the worst Metal Gear villain. Let's be honest. His name was stupid.
Okay.
His attitude was retarded. Peace.
I recant. He is not the worst.
We can't achieve peace, Doctor. We have to meet it halfway. Hot Cold Man's retarded in every sense. Okay,
that's fair. Skullface isn't the worst. Hot Cold Man is the worst.
Yeah, but there's gonna be someone who's like, I loved Hot Cold Man.
Anyway,
I like Skullface.
We need to wrap this up. We're going to continue and do a second part of this where we talk about pause, we talk about implications of the rest of the series. Heck, we may even brush up on some of the other things.
The first thing I want to do, because I don't think we have enough battery to do this, is I want to talk about the timeline, the year timeline at the end of the credits. That's the first thing I want to touch on next time, because it's about the implications on what happens leading into Metal Gear Solid 1, which is going through Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. So I want to talk about that first, about the implications of where Venom is in the 80s and 90s, and where Big Boss Naked Snake is in the 80s and 90s. So yeah.
So, thanks for watching.
This is not the end. This is the end of Chapter 1. So anyways, yeah. Thanks for watching. We will be back eventually to talk about Metal Gear Solid 5 some more. Alright, so see you later.
Okay. Give me the microphone first so I can bust like a bubble. Compton and Long Beach together. Now you know you in trouble. Ain't nothing but a G-Fang, baby.
Okay.
Too low.
Two things.